Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, and it is time for a preview of the 2023 Cincinnati men's final between Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic. We get it for a third time in more or less 3 months after waiting an entire year for it, more than a year from Madrid 2022 to Roland Garros 2023. This is tremendous. We love this. It is the third meeting of the year, and it's 1-1, and it's kind of went the opposite way that I think most people would think, including myself, in terms of who won on which surface. And a hard court can be kind of the happy medium. Now, no, this isn't the U.S. Open, so it's not really the perfect tiebreaker for the trilogy, but I am quite glad we are seeing it, and happy for Cincinnati. What a final. Now, I did a post-match video on the semifinal, Alcaraz. I did not do one for Djokovic Zverev. So I will spend a little bit extra time just talking about Djokovic versus Zverev, but ultimately I'll talk about both of the players' paths leading up to this point, and then I'll talk about their keys to victory, and then I'll make a prediction. All right? So Djokovic and Zverev, look, good match, really high quality. You know, Novak's been so sharp all week, it's resulted in a lot of blowout victories. I don't think his level dipped all that much. I just think that Zverev was the first player to really be able to come close to matching it. But I think the return of serve I think there were two things interesting about this match. The first thing was the return of serve, and that would be the area that I would pinpoint as the largest area where Djokovic separated himself from Zverev. And you can look at the first set tiebreak. Zverev missed 5 returns, or Djokovic got 5 cheapies. No aces, but he got 5 unreturned serves. And 4 of them were to the Zverev forehand. The other one was a body serve that honestly could have been a forehand, but Zverev just moved out of the way to make it a backhand. And 2 of them were second serves. One of them was a serve and volley that I think Zverev got surprised by first point of the tiebreak. So that was, I think, a lot of credit to Novak. But that's too many missed returns. He should have made, obviously, both second serve returns, but even probably at least one of the first serve returns. They weren't amazing, perfect serves. So that cost Zverev. Novak did a good job of getting more first serve returns in play. I thought he did a good job of that when it counted, and he got the mini break in that first set tiebreak on a good scramble, really smart passing shot where he hit the backhand down the line low to Zverev's forehand volley, which is his inferior volley. He's much better on the backhand, and he got the missed volley from Sasha. But throughout the match, outside of just zooming in on the tiebreak, the second serve returning was night and day. It looked completely different, and it was way better for Novak, who was taking it really early, about a foot inside the baseline, hitting it super clean. And the ball was just at Zverev's feet. Great depth, great pace, pretty much every time. Zverev just doesn't have the most precise second serve. He normally puts it in the middle of the box. And Djokovic just kind of made him pay for that. The second serve consistently set up Novak really well for the fourth shot of the rally. And in some cases, he drew errors outright by getting the ball so quickly back at Zverev's feet, deep down the middle. Whereas Sasha was 7 feet behind the baseline on the second serve return, and Djokovic was on the deuce side, targeting the forehand, hitting that kind of sliding second serve out wide, would pull Zverev off the court. He just wasn't doing anything with it. And I don't need him to be ultra aggressive on the second serve return. I get that that's not really Zverev's thing. But oftentimes I felt that he was giving Novak a really good look at the +1 forehand. And that's just not really doing enough. Stats: Zverev, second serve win percentage, 40%. Djokovic, 55%. It was so crucial that Novak took advantage of his opportunities on Zverev's second serve because Zverev had a great serving day. His first serve was awesome and really big. So you got to be able to win those points when you get a look at the second. Novak did that very well. And Zverev, on the other hand, when Novak didn't make a lot of first serves in the second set, he didn't really take advantage. He was 50% in the second set. So it was actually worse in the first set, as you can gather. The other thing that was interesting about the match is I think Zverev struck a pretty good balance of offense and defense for most of the match, and then he lost it. He got so passive in the end there. It actually worked. Djokovic served for the match, and he got super tight and missed some easy forehands in the middle of the court. So that happened. As I was watching that, I thought, wow, I mean, Zverev is just not threatening offensively at all. There's no depth. There's no location. He's just putting the ball in the middle and defending. And he got missed forehands from Novak, but he's also dropping back really deep. I was thinking, where's the drop shot? Where's the net approach? If you get tight on the forehand, maybe those things can help you out. And then in the next game, and this was a Zverev service game, yet again, he's getting dictated in baseline rallies. And this time, Novak mixes in a drop shot, does approach the net on break point, gets the break, and serves it out. So, Sasha kind of falling into bad habits there. In general, there was some passivity issues, as you can kind of connect the dots between the way he was returning second serves and what I just described in the baseline rallies. Novak really dominating court position as this match progressed, and that was also a factor. But ultimately, it was slim margins, and Zverev, great serving, very solid from the back, some good moments of transition play and such. So it wasn't all bad. It was a good level from Zverev, but Novak got him in straights. Let me talk about the week as a whole. Domination for Novak. You got a retirement from ADF in his first match. Monfils, it's his pigeon. Gael got pretty demoralized pretty quickly. His will was broken pretty early on. That was cruise control. Fritz, no answers. Novak was controlling the ball beautifully that match. And Taylor, it just seemed like he was on the run a ton. Couldn't really dictate from the middle and use his power and his offense like he wants. And that was pretty straightforward and uncompetitive as well. Great matchups for Novak. Zero rustiness, razor sharp play. And that was it. It was a very different week for Carlos Alcaraz, who has won none of his matches in straight sets. Going back to Toronto, it's 6 consecutive matches going 3 sets. I do think his level is a little bit better this week. I think the forehand looks better when he has time on the ball, especially. He's just making less egregious attacking unforced errors this week. I think the quality of the matches have been pretty high, but there have been a couple of issues that have emerged. One, clutchness. Combined break points this week, 15 out of 60, 25%. Now, sometimes that stat is misleading. For example, if John Isner plays Hurkacz, and we're looking at 25% breakpoint conversion, for example. Okay, that's fine. I mean, they're not going to win a lot of return points. It makes sense that they have low breakpoint percentages. But you want to hear what Alcaraz, if you look at Alcaraz's return points won percentages this week. Why did I lose this? I don't know what happened. I'm trying to pull this up. Hold on. Return points won. Weird. Hold on. I'm going to get it. Okay, here we go. 43%, 45%, 42%, 35%. So Alcaraz's win rate on break point is taking a massive dip compared to his regular return points win rate. There have been a couple of occasions where, sure, his opponents have made an unusually high number of first serves, but still, that is something that has been very noticeable, and it's a huge reason why these matches have been so close. It's not that Alcaraz is not creating opportunities for himself in return games, it's that he is not converting on those opportunities. Also, the first serve could be much, much better. Something that has been alarming for Alcaraz this week is that his first serve win percentages and his second serve win percentages have been very, very close together. Like against Hurkacz, I'll do first serve first. 68 versus 64. Against Purcell, 67 versus 62. Tommy Paul, it was not so much. Even Jordan Thompson, 66 versus 64. Oh, what is that telling you? That's not good. That means that your first serve is basically performing at the level of your second serve. So his first serve is not working well this week. There's also a stylistic commonality in his opponents, both last week and this week, interestingly enough, in all 6 3-set matches. What do Thompson, Paul, Purcell, Hurkacz, what do they all have in common? They are all A-level volleyers. A or A+, all of them. So they've all applied that pressure. They've all made it difficult for Alcaraz to get a lot of baseline rhythm, I think, for the most part, and they've made it hard for Alcaraz to turn defense to offense from the back of the court as often as he usually does. Now, with all that said, I also want to talk about what's been really, really impressive about Alcaraz this week, and it shouldn't be lost. Mental toughness, endurance, that's been incredible. I mean, the amount of gut punches, the amount of body blows he's taken. In the fight game, you call it having a good chin. How many punches can you take? How hard a punch can you take? And for this analogy, in tennis, you're not taking punches, but when you lose a bunch of break points and you keep losing sets and you keep having to go deep in these matches and you're missing opportunities, there's a lot of opportunity for Alcaraz to get negative, to let frustration disrupt his focus, disrupt his effort, disrupt his tactics. He has not done that. He just goes to work. His fight has been awesome. It's been amazing this week. And that's the only reason he's in the final, despite being pushed each and every match. So now, let's get to the keys to the match for Novak Djokovic. First, fitness. It's not so much keys to the match as it is, I think, areas of advantage. Fitness. So temperatures are going to be very high tomorrow. Very, very hot. It hasn't been hot the entire week. Alcaraz has spent over 10 hours on court. Djokovic has spent a little bit over 5. It's basically double. Not to mention, last week, Novak was training, but not playing. So comes in with fresher batteries, more well-rested. He's been unbelievably efficient. Alcaraz has been just going through war after war after war for 2 weeks now. And now it's going to be really hot. Let's face it. One of their meetings, and yes, I thought that a lot of it was psychological, the stress affecting Alcaraz physiologically. That said, one of these meetings has been determined with fitness, and it could happen again here given the circumstances. It could. And don't just watch for Alcaraz to cramp or to get noticeably tired. Also watch for his decisions, because that is the first tell if he doesn't have his legs. You know, his shot selection. At Wimbledon, he was very solid, very disciplined. Low energy kills shot selection. Second thing for Djokovic, reversing what was a surprise at Wimbledon. I have always thought, given the level of Novak Djokovic's serve, the level of Carlos Alcaraz's serve, and the way they return, that Novak should be able to create more opportunities for himself in the one-shot rallies, first of all, meaning serve, and then the ball doesn't come back. Novak should get more of that than Alcaraz. I don't think that happened at Wimbledon. Unfortunately, Wimbledon stats, not great. I don't have the stat. We'll have the stat after this match and we'll see what happens. But it didn't seem like that. Novak's aces were very, very low. He wasn't getting service winners. It was Alcaraz, especially down the stretch, who was getting a whole lot of help out of his serve, not Novak. That's surprising. This is a quick surface. It's a lively surface. Can Novak reverse that, especially as the better spot server? Let's see what happens there. I have a feeling the answer is going to be yes, if I were to guess. But also aggressive returning, I think, for Novak can be a key. It's something that I think does bother Alcaraz quite a bit. If you take his second serve, especially hard and aggressive, and kind of take away his comfort level on the first shot of the rally, or I should say his first shot of the rally, his first ground stroke of the rally, that can get to him. I don't think he likes that. And another thing is returns to the backhand. Because in general, I think Novak wants Alcaraz to be running to his forehand side and trading on his backhand side. And the way you accomplish that, you start the rally on Alcaraz's backhand, jump into that cross court. You'll usually get a slower ball, on average, at least maybe about 5 miles per hour slower if you get it to his backhand. That's the better way to start the point. So can Novak do that? And then the last thing is convert on offensive forehands on a consistent basis. And that's an execution thing. It's always a key for Djokovic. His forehand's been terrific this week. And I'm curious to see what it looks like on the court with Alcaraz's forehand this time. Because at Roland Garros, Novak's forehand looked up to Alcaraz's level. And at Wimbledon, not so much, especially in the fifth set. Alcaraz's forehand was making him a lot of money, and Djokovic's was not doing much. Alcaraz keys, while it's fresh in your mind, I do want to remind you that Alcaraz was favoring the serve to the Djokovic forehand and mixing in the very, very fast second serve to the Djokovic forehand so that it's harder for Novak to make Alcaraz hit first ball backhands. It's harder to go down the line with your return, forehand return, on the deuce side or inside out on the ad side. It's easier if the ball's on your backhand to go inside in or cross on the ad. So Alcaraz understands that. He knows Novak wants him to hit a backhand. On the first serve, you just got to mix it up and hit good first serves and you'll get forehands. But on the second serve, you got to think really hard about how you're mixing it up, and you want to probably go more at Novak's forehand. These lively courts, though, let's talk about how the heat could actually help Alcaraz and how the conditions can actually help Alcaraz. I talked about this a lot coming into the Roland Garros meeting because it was the main thing that Alcaraz was doing to Djokovic in Madrid in 2022. I didn't talk about it that much coming into the Wimbledon match because you can't really do this on grass. But for Alcaraz, you're always looking for the weaker ball. How am I going to get the weak trade, the attackable ball? And the answer for him in Madrid, and at times in the Roland Garros match, was get it above Djokovic's shoulders on the backhand. The courts are bouncing very, very high. High bounce, lively bounce. The Alcaraz kick serve is going to have a chance to get a lot of jump, especially on a hot day. But even more so, the Alcaraz forehand. How much is he going to hit that high, heavy into Novak's backhand? And what is Djokovic going to do to counter? Is he going to throw up the high ball in response? That's something he did in Paris. Or on a hard court, it's much easier to take the ball early on the rise. On clay, that can be more low percentage. It can be done, but it's a little harder. On a hard court, Novak can do that. Take a lot of time away and just take that ball on the rise to kind of counter if Alcaraz is going to try to add spin and height. Ultimately, I think the biggest key for Alcaraz, though, is tying into the adjustment that he made at Wimbledon. first set, a lot of the second set versus the latter three, which is consistency. Make high percentage decisions. Choose pace wisely. He needs to have the legs to do it. He needs to do it a lot better than he has been doing it for these last 2 weeks, where he has been too erratic. It has hurt him. His opponents have been excellent, but the inconsistencies have been ever present for Carlitos. I think it's going to be a lot about his execution, not all that much playing around tactically. It's going to be a lot just about how well he can execute his tennis, because it's been a tough couple weeks for him in that area, and I think the key is going to be for him just reversing that and play the best match that he's played in the last 2 weeks, ultimately. And I think Novak needs to feel out the match. Consistency might win this. He needs to see how Alcaraz is playing. Consistency, defense, keeping the ball deep in the court, that might be enough. But if Alcaraz is playing at his best, then offense needs to win it. And Novak needs to be, in that case, Novak would need to be much, much more offensively forceful than he was at Wimbledon. He'll need to hit better first serves. He'll need to hit better forehands. He'll have to play more offense. And I think Novak can win that way, ultimately. I think Novak can keep it cleaner than Alcaraz. Prediction: I think the fatigue factor is huge. I'm concerned for Alcaraz in this department, and I think Novak, with his form and the way he's looking, he's going to pounce on any weakness, any crack in Alcaraz's game. Psychologically, I think Novak is in a great spot. The motivation is certainly there. The belief is definitely there. One match at Wimbledon that was razor close is not going to be nearly enough to shake that. So I like Djokovic in this one. I predicted 3 sets before the tournament began. I'll knock it down to 2. I'll knock it down to 2 just because I do think he'll win. Before I wrap up, I do want to answer a question that some of you may have, which is, how much do you show your hand strategically? The U.S. Open is right around the corner. How do you approach that? I think the answer for Alcaraz is, again, you kind of focus on your level and spontaneity, and you're not going to go too heavy on the strategy. You won the last matchup. You've been playing a lot of tennis. I think it's just focus on executing better. For Novak, I'm sure he has some tricks up his sleeve. For him, the question coming off the loss is a little bit more interesting of how do you use your tactics. I want to remind everyone what happened in Paris-Bercy after he lost the U.S. Open final to Daniil Medvedev. That is a match that is obviously remembered for Novak Djokovic serve and volleying over and over and over again, especially on the deuce side. For the first time anyone really went heavy serve and volley against Medvedev. He did not do that in the first set. He lost the first set. Then he started serve and volleying. I think we could see a similar thing here. He probably has some ideas. He probably won't tap into those ideas unless he's in a position where he needs them to win the match. And then I think, yeah, give it a test drive. Give it a run now. I know there's a downside to it. Like you are, if there's any major changeup, you get to show Alcaraz and Ferrero that before the U.S. Open. But I do think it's probably, if it's a good tactic, it's probably worth trying to see if it's a good tactic and then kind of shifting the ball to Alcaraz's court, so to speak. All right. Hope it's a great final and hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.